I didn't lose my family that night. I finally saw them. New Year's Eve is supposed to feel like a reset. Like maybe the past gets left behind with the old calendar. I walked into that restaurant believing, against my better judgment, that this year might be different. The lighting was soft, the kind that forgives wrinkles and mistakes. Champagne glasses lined the table like symbols of celebration. Everyone looked polished, successful, complete. And for a moment I let myself pretend I belonged there too. Asterisk then. My mother leaned in. Asterisk, her perfume hit before her words did. Sweet, familiar, dangerous. Asterisk. We only invited you out of pity, she whispered, smiling as if she were doing me a kindness. Don't stay too long, okay? Asterisk. Time didn't stop dramatically. No music cut out, no one else noticed. But something inside me went quiet in a way I'd never felt before. I searched her face for a crack, a hint that this was some kind of joke. There was nothing. Just satisfaction. Asterisk. Before I could even process it, my brother laughed. Loud. Confident. He announced to the table that I was the family failure. The one who never made it. The one they constantly had to save. A few people chuckled. Someone added a comment about me being late as usual. Like they'd rehearsed it. Like I was the evening's entertainment. Asterisk. I sat there holding my glass, nodding, smiling faintly, feeling every word land in my body instead of my ears. My chest felt tight, but my face didn't move. I didn't defend myself. I didn't cry. I didn't ask why this kept happening. I finished my drink slowly. I told them. I had an early morning. And I walked out. They laughed as I left. I remember the sound of it following me into the cold air, bouncing off the sidewalk like proof that they thought they'd won. They thought I was retreating. They thought I was doing what I always did, absorbing the damage quietly so they could keep pretending everything was fine. Asterisk. What they didn't know was that something had finally snapped into place. Not rage. Clarity. Asterisk. A week later. I was sitting on my couch in my tiny Seattle apartment when my phone started vibrating like it was possessed. Call after call from my mom. I ignored them. Then my brother. Then emails started flooding in, bank notifications, account alerts, words like urgent and statement available lighting up my screen. I answered my mom eventually. She wasn't crying. She was panicking. The kind of panic that comes when control slips. Asterisk. What did you do? She demanded. The cabin is gone. There are strangers there. They have paperwork, Jenna, with your name on it. Asterisk. She barely took a breath before continuing. Accounts closed. Payments bounced. Fees stacking up. My father furious. My brother yelling in the background. Everything unraveling all at once. Asterisk. I didn't interrupt her. Asterisk. I looked out the window at the rain streaking down the glass and let her words hang in the air. Asterisk. Then my brother started texting. Long messages. Accusations. Claims that I'd ruined his credit, embarrassed him professionally. Destroyed family plans. And then the line that made everything perfectly clear. Asterisk. All this because you couldn't take a joke. Asterisk. That's when I laughed. Out loud. Alone in my apartment. Asterisk. Because a week earlier, after that dinner, I'd come home shaking. I dropped my keys on the counter and stood there in the silence, realizing how loud my life had been with their voices in it. I opened my laptop and started pulling up every document I'd ever signed for them. Every, just help us out. Every, this is temporary. Every, it's for the family. Asterisk. I found emails, PDFs, screenshots. I pulled an old folder from my closet documents. I'd signed without understanding because they told me I didn't need to. That night, I read everything, and the truth hit harder than the dinner ever had. The cabin they bragged about, it wasn't in my name for tax reasons. It was in my name. Full ownership. Asterisk. The credit line my brother said was just for emergencies. I was legally responsible. The joint accounts my mom claimed were to help me build credit. Asterisk. They'd been funding their lifestyle. I wasn't the failure. I was the foundation. Asterisk. I opened a notebook and wrote 3 words at the top of a blank page. Take it back. And for the first time in my life, I meant it. I didn't scream. I didn't threaten. I didn't announce anything. I called a lawyer I trusted, a friend who didn't see me as weak or dramatic. She read the paperwork and confirmed what I already knew in my gut. Asterisk legally. Everything was mine to undo, so I did. Quietly. Cleanly. One signature at a time. I sold the cabin. I closed accounts where I was the primary holder. Asterisk I removed my name from credit lines that never should have touched my life. Asterisk I documented everything. Asterisk when the money hit my account, I didn't celebrate. I paid off my own debts. Set aside taxes. And then I did something small but sacred. I rented a studio space just for me. A room with light and silence where no one else had keys. That's when the backlash started. My brother showed up at my door, furious, blaming me for consequences he'd never expected to face. My father followed, calm on the surface, furious underneath, trying to negotiate my self-respect like it was a bill he could settle. Asterisk, what do you want to make this go away? He asked. Asterisk, and that's when I understood the difference between U.S. He thought this was about money. I told him I wanted my name back, my credit back, my future back, and I wanted out of being their safety net. Asterisk, he didn't understand. But for the first time, he didn't have power. Asterisk, the fallout didn't explode all at once. It crept in, through revised paperwork, through uncomfortable meetings, through silence where entitlement used to live. Asterisk, eventually, my mother apologized. A real apology, not to erase the past, but to acknowledge it. My father never fully did. But he stopped pretending I was wrong, and now things are different, not perfect, not warm, but honest. Asterisk, here's what I want you to hear, if any part of this feels familiar. Asterisk, family doesn't get unlimited access to your life, just because they share your blood. Love does not require you to disappear, and loyalty does not mean silence. Asterisk, reading the fine print doesn't make you ungrateful. Asterisk, saying no doesn't make you selfish. Asterisk, sometimes the strongest thing you can do is stop playing the role they wrote for you. Asterisk, you are not a safety net. You are not a punchline. You are allowed to take your name back. They thought the night ended when I walked out of that restaurant. Asterisk, for me, that was when it finally began. Asterisk, I remember unlocking my apartment door and being hit by the quiet. No voices. No judgment disguised as concern. Just the hum of the fridge. And the city breathing outside my window. I dropped my coat on the chair, set my keys down, and stood there longer than I needed to. Like my body was waiting for permission to exist without being braced for the next comment. Asterisk, my hands were still shaking. Asterisk, not because of what they said, but because of how familiar it felt. The pity, the jokes. The way they spoke about me like I was a problem they had generously tolerated. That dinner wasn't new. It was just louder, public, final. Asterisk, I sat down on the couch and stared at the wall until the silence stopped feeling heavy and started feeling honest. Then I opened my laptop. Asterisk, at first, I told myself I was just trying to distract my mind. But my fingers didn't open social media or streaming apps. They went straight to my email. I typed bank. Then account. Then my family's last name. Messages started surfacing, years worth of them. Just sign this real quick. Asterisk, this is temporary. We'll fix it later. Asterisk, it's easier if we put it under your name. I felt something cold settle in my stomach. I opened another folder. Then another. Digital copies of documents I barely remembered seeing, let alone understanding. PDFs with my name typed neatly at the bottom. My signature scanned and reused like a stamp of permission I didn't remember giving. Asterisk, I went to my bedroom and pulled out the old folder from the back of my closet, the one I'd moved from apartment to apartment without ever opening. Paper copies, original documents, things my parents had told me to keep just in case. That night I didn't skim. I read, asterisk, line by line, word by word. No excuses, no rushing, no trusting that someone else had my best interests in mind. Asterisk, and that's when the story I'd been told my whole life started to crack. Asterisk, the cabin at Lake Chelan, the place my parents loved to brag about. The backdrop of every perfect holiday photo wasn't in my name for tax reasons. That had been a lie so casually delivered it almost felt harmless. The deed didn't list us. It listed me. Owner. Not co-owner, not future beneficiary. Owner. My signature. My responsibility. My asset. My chest tightened as I kept reading. The so-called family emergency credit line my brother had opened after one of his early deals went bad. I wasn't just a reference. I was a co-applicant, fully liable. Every risk tied directly to my identity. The joint checking account, my mom said, would help you build credit. Wasn't some training tool for adulthood. It was a pass-through. Money moving in and out to cover their trips, upgrades, and emergencies. While my name absorbed the exposure, I leaned back and stared at the ceiling. For years, they had called me irresponsible, unstable, behind. But the paperwork told a different story. I wasn't the family failure. I was the buffer, the safety net they'd wrapped around themselves so quietly that even I hadn't noticed. Every time something went wrong for them, my name softened the fall. Every risk they didn't want to carry alone. They slid into my lap with a smile and a story about family loyalty. And I had believed them. Because I wanted to belong. I grabbed a notebook from the kitchen and sat back down at the coffee table. My hands were steady now, clear, focused. I wrote 3 words at the top of a blank page.
Take. Back. Underneath, I started listing everything. The cabin, every joint account, every loan, every bill tied to my social.
Security number. I didn't know exactly how yet. I didn't have a master plan. But I knew one thing with absolute certainty. I was done being useful at my own expense. The laughter from that dinner echoed faintly in my head, not sharp anymore. Just hollow. They thought I was small because I stayed quiet. They thought silence meant consent. They were wrong. That night, while they slept comfortably in the life my name had helped secure, I sat alone in a mismatched apartment and finally understood the truth. I wasn't walking away from my family. I was waking up. The morning after that realization didn't come with adrenaline or drama. It came with a strange, steady calm. I woke up before my alarm, staring at the ceiling, my mind already moving, not racing, organizing. The fear I'd lived with for years had shifted into something sharper. Purpose. When you finally understand what's been done to you, panic gives way to precision. I made coffee and didn't turn on any music. I wanted to hear my own thoughts for once. The rain tapped against the window like a metronome, steady and patient, as if the city itself was giving me time to think. That's when I called Maya. We hadn't spoken in months. Life had pulled us in different directions the way it does. But she picked up on the second ring like no time had passed. Her face appeared on my screen, hair pulled into a messy bun, oversized hoodie, no performance, no polish. The complete opposite of the people I'd had dinner with the night before. She smiled at first. Then she really looked at me. What happened, Shun? That was all it took. I told her everything. The dinner, the whisper, the laughter. The way I'd been turned into a joke in a room full of people who shared my last name. I told her it wasn't new, just louder, just crueler. I told her how every time my brother's business wobbled, my name somehow appeared on another form. How every question I asked was brushed off with trust us. As I talked, her expression changed, not to shock. To focus. I tilted my laptop and showed her the table. The stacks of papers, deeds, statements, account summaries. All with my name printed in places I barely remembered agreeing to. Maya didn't interrupt. She didn't reassure me. She switched modes. Okay, she said slowly. Let's walk through this. We went line by line. The cabin deed came. First, the one my parents had always framed as symbolic. Sentimental. Something my grandparents wanted me to feel included in. Maya zoomed in on the scanned copy I'd sent her the night before. She stopped. Jenna, she said, her voice different. Now, this isn't symbolic. This isn't for tax reasons. This says you're the owner, not co-owner. Owner. The word landed heavy. Owner. Asterisk, she asked about the credit line with my brother. The emergency one. I told her how I never saw statements. Unless something went wrong. How questions were treated like ingratitude. She had me log into my online banking and share my screen. Asterisk. Transaction after transaction filled the page. Flights, hotels, upgrades, shopping sprees. Highlight reel of their life attached to my identity. Asterisk, I felt my chest tighten as the picture became undeniable. This wasn't confusion. This was convenience. Mine. Asterisk Maya leaned back and rubbed her forehead. Okay, she said, here's what we're not going to do. We're not going to blow up your life just to get even. We're going to follow the paper. We're going to do this clean. Asterisk, she spoke like this was a client meeting, not a favor for a friend. And that mattered. It grounded me. Asterisk, she explained my options slowly, carefully. What I could keep, what I could sell, what I could close, what I could remove myself from. No dramatics. Just facts. Asterisk, you don't owe anyone access to your credit. Or your name, she said. Not even family. That sentence cracked something open inside me. Then she hesitated. Asterisk. There is one thing you could do, she added. But you need to be sure. Asterisk, she told me about a couple she knew, cash buyers from the tech world. People who had been looking for a second home in that exact area for years. Buyers who could move fast, clean, quiet. Asterisk, the kind of deal my parents would have bragged about endlessly if it were theirs. Asterisk, if you want out. Maya said, we can list the cabin discreetly and close quickly. Legally, if the deed says what it says, there's not much they can do. I didn't answer right away. I thought about summers there. About my grandparents, the only people who had ever made me feel like I wasn't a disappointment. I thought about my parents using that place as proof of their success, posting photos like I was just too busy to join their perfect life. Asterisk, selling it felt like cutting away the last soft memory I had of them, but leaving it in their hands felt worse. I asked Maya what would happen if we did it her way. Asterisk, she laid it out step by step, like a recipe. No emotion. Just process. First, prepare the sale and lock a closing date. Second, close or separate every joint account tied to my name. Asterisk. Third, document everything, every call, every email. Asterisk, if they come after you, she said, we show the paper. Asterisk, I looked down at my notebook, now filled with arrows and bullet points. The word mine circled 3 times around the cabin. Asterisk, I don't want to destroy them, I said quietly. I just want them to stop. Asterisk. Maya didn't flinch. Sometimes, she said, the only way people like that stop is when consequences land on their doorstep. You're not stealing anything. You're taking your name back. The room went quiet. Then I nodded. Asterisk. Call your buyers, I said. Let's see how fast they move. Asterisk, and with that, the story stopped being about humiliation. Asterisk, it became about action. The first thing I felt when it was finally done wasn't victory. It was space, not the kind you celebrate. The kind that opens up after years of holding your breath. The kind that feels unfamiliar because your nervous system doesn't know what to do without constant pressure. Asterisk, the cabin sale closed quietly. No announcement, no family meeting. Just signatures, timestamps, and a confirmation email that landed in my inbox like punctuation at the end of a very long sentence. The place they'd treated like a family trophy was no longer something they could point to, post about, or weaponize. It was simply finished. The accounts followed. One by one, I closed what was mine to close. I removed my name where it never should have been. Every phone call was calm. Every confirmation email felt surreal. Each time a bank representative casually said, "Yes, you're the primary holder," it felt like discovering another door I'd been standing in front of my whole life without realizing it could open. Asterisk, I documented everything. Asterisk, not because I wanted a fight, but because I finally understood the difference between trust and proof. Asterisk, when the money from the sale hit my account, I didn't feel rich. I felt responsible. I paid off my legitimate debts. I set aside taxes. I did the boring, adult things no one had ever taught me to do because it was easier for them if I stayed uninformed. Asterisk. Then I did one thing just for me. Asterisk. I signed a lease on a small studio space not far from my apartment. Nothing fancy. Big windows. Scratched hardwood floors. Enough room to breathe. The first time I unlocked that door, I stood there longer than necessary, letting it sink in that this space, this quiet belonged to me alone. Asterisk. No one else's expectations. No one else's access. No one else's leverage. Asterisk. Back in my parents' world, the ground shifted. Asterisk. My brother's life tightened. Deal slowed. Some clients stayed. Some didn't. My mother's social media posts softened, careful in a way they never had been before. Less bragging, more vague gratitude. My father stopped calling altogether, and I let the silence stand. Eventually, my mother asked to meet. Somewhere neutral, no money talk, no guilt. Just coffee. Asterisk. She looked smaller without the house behind her. Tired in a way I'd never seen before. And for the first time in my life, she apologized without conditions. She admitted the control. The rationalizations. The way using my name had felt easier than facing their own limits. I listened. I didn't rush to forgive. I didn't rush to fix it. Asterisk. I told her I wasn't cutting them off, but the version of me they were used to was gone. No joint accounts, no quiet favors. No more using me as a safety net or a punchline. Asterisk. She nodded. And for once she didn't argue. Asterisk. My father never fully apologized. But he stopped insisting I was wrong. And that was its own kind of admission. Asterisk. We aren't close in the way people like to imagine families should be. There are pauses now, boundaries, distance, but there is also something we never had before. Truth. Here's what I want you to understand if any of this feels uncomfortably familiar. Asterisk. Family can love you and still exploit you. Asterisk. Loyalty can be used as a leash, and silence can be mistaken for consent. You are allowed to read the fine print. You are allowed to ask questions. You are allowed to say no. Even when everyone expects yes. Protecting your name doesn't make you selfish. It makes you accountable. You are not a safety net. You are not a backup plan. Asterisk. You are not a punchline dressed up as family humor. Asterisk. You are allowed to outgrow the role they assigned you. You are allowed to take your name back. And if you ever have to choose between keeping the peace and keeping your self-respect, choose yourself. Always.